Dear friends, welcome to Samruddhi. So we are starting a educational series video for you to help understand how construction points to be considered, what are the best practices that you will have to know, and whenever you plan to construct a house, what are the technical and practical things that you should be aware and what you have to know in terms of following those best practices at site. So we will start from this project where we will post series of educational videos, so that will help you to understand, so that you can gain knowledge and you can follow the steps for constructing at your site by yourself. If you will not be able to do so, we are always here for your help. Friends, now I would help you to understand the foundation ka size. So this foundation is of a size 4 feet by 5 feet with a depth of 18 inches. So the width is 4 feet and the length is 5.5 feet with a width depth of 18-inch thickness, and the column size of this is 6 inches by 18 inches, and we have a reinforcement varying diameter of 4 number rods of 16 mm, and in between we have 12 mm rods of 4 numbers. So we have 4 numbers of 12 mm rod and 4 numbers of 16 mm rods. So with this, the spacing of the stirrups is 8 inches. You can see evidently here. Friends, now let us understand how foundation is designed. So if you have to know how the foundation is designed for any house, it purely depends on the total floor plan and how the load is getting distributed and transferred from the roof to the beam and to the columns, and then finally to the foundation. So all foundations may not be of a same size, and each foundation changes by itself based on the load that is acting at that point. So typically we may be using around 150 kg of steel and approximately a minimum of 35 cubic feet of concrete for one foundation. So similarly, like this, total number of foundations that is designed will be helping us to calculate and know what is the cost of foundation for that specific project. Now if you think my neighbor has constructed a house and if he has spent around 3 lakhs for foundation, will it be the same expenses for our project? It may or may not be, which purely depends on once the design is done and when the calculation has been arrived. Till then the cost is always unknown. Now that if you have to know what is the parameters that cost is going to be depending on, is purely based on the floor plan that will be finalized from your end, and based on that floor plan what is the structure design that is going to be designed. Based on the structure design, the cost of the foundation may vary between 3 lakhs to 4 lakhs to 5 lakhs, and in some cases it may reach 12 lakhs if the soil is weak or if the soil is loose. So we may don't have to compare this with the neighboring project ka expenses. It purely depends on the structure design. So on what parameters is structure design going to be relying on? It is on the soil test. So soil test for each project is so compulsory that based on the type of soil that is there in your site and the capacity of the soil to take the load will decide how much of steel, how much of concrete needs to be consumed for the designed floor plan to take the load so that it can sustain for a long time, which all the time differs between the project. So never the structure costing will be same for two project at any given point of time or at any given circumstances. Friends, you would have heard in news channels that a house that is constructed would have fallen within a time span of 6 months to 1 year to 2 years. If you understand the reason behind such an incident, it is purely because the structure design that was done would have been based on some thumb rule or without following the proper procedure of soil testing, and structure design would have not been done. So at that circumstances, so where the foundation which is designed will not have the capacity to hold the strength and the soil collapses, at the same time even the foundation also collapses, thereby the entire structures comes down or falls down. So it is so important that we do the soil testing at our place to know the strength of the soil and then design the structure accordingly so that the stability of the structure is always at the maximum. So the total budget of the house usually depends on the foundation expenses as well. So without this knowledge, if you are assuming that you will construct a house in XYZ budget, and if the foundation cost is going more, if you have a loose soil at your site, the budget that you would think that you will be able to complete the project work will never work in the way that you would plan your expenses. So without consulting a professional, do not assume that you will be able to build a house at a budget that you would be planning. Instead, always take a professional information so that you will be able to get to know the right budget which depends on the actual expenses for your project, which starts from the foundation on an actual scale, so that always your budget will match the final expenses that you will be able to incur by the time you complete your dream home. So friends, with this background, so let's understand that there are 12 foundation like this in this project, and in this line there are totally 3 such foundation where the size is 4 feet by 5.5 feet with a depth of 18 inches, and all the 3 columns in this line are of 6 inches by 18 inches. Other foundation are of a different size, which we will see in the later stage. Friends, now that we have seen a foundation of 4 feet by 5.5 feet size, we are now in another foundation which is of a size 5 feet by 6.5 feet, and the depth of this footing is 21 inch. Now you can see the width of this is 5 feet and the length is 6 feet, and the depth is varying for 21 inches as you can see here. So the amount of steel consumption here, what happens depends again on a different design, which we are separately showing it to you on the design snap, where this varies from another foundation. If another foundation the consumption of steel is around 150 kgs of steel, here it could be more than 250 kgs of steel. As such, the concrete consumption there it is around 18 inches, whereas here it is 21 inch. The total consumption of steel as well as the concrete both are more compared to the previous one, which depends on the load that is acting at this point. So accordingly you can see the size. If we have to understand the column size now, this column is also of 6 inches by 18 inches, whereas the steel that is used is, there are total 8 number of steel and all the 8 number of steels are 16 mm TMT bars, whereas the previous column what we saw, the outer sizes of the steel bar was 16 mm of 4 numbers and the inner number bars were 12 mm rods. But whereas here all the 8 TMT bars which is used is 16 mm. Why is based on the load that is acting at this point, to take the load which is at the center of the site, to take and transfer the load, the capacity or the strength required is more, so accordingly the size of the TMT bar is also more. So with this, what is the takeaway for you is, if there are around 12 columns in a side, not that all the column size will be same, nor all the steel bars that is used in each of the column will not be the same. It may change according to the design. So you should know that though the column size is same, the TMT bars that is used will differ from one column to another column. How do we generalize this is, so if there are around 10 projects that we are constructing of a same size, okay, the consumption of steel varies from each column to column. So accordingly, if there is a consumption of around 10 tons of steel in one project, that doesn't mean that it will be the same thing for all the 10 projects. It may be either 9 ton or it may be 11 ton, which purely depends on the structure design. So there is no something as generalized consumption. Friends, this is another footing of a same size, because there are totally 3 footings of size 5 feet by 6.5. So we have seen one, this is second one that we can see. You can see the size and the depth that has been casted with the column. So similarly, there are 2 more footings that we will just show you, which is of a same size of 5 feet by 6.5 feet with a depth of 21 inches. You can see this is one more, and next to that you have one more footing as well. The location might differ, but the size remains same. So now what you are seeing is another footing of older size, which is 4 feet by 5.5 feet. Friends, we are now going to see the third kind of a footing that we have done. We are at the edge of the site towards the road, and in stretch may we have done 3 columns at the site edge. Why we have done the 3 columns at site edge is, since our plan was to utilize the parking place to the fullest extent, we didn't want to place the column 2 feet inside the site, which could have disturbed the parking. So in order to reap the benefit of the space available and to use it at a fullest extent, so we have pushed the column to the site edge. So in this line may all the 3 columns which are coming has been shifted to the site edge. So from that, what is it, the design going to be happening is, the foundation itself is being designed for entire 30 feet of width of the site, whereas the depth of the foundation is 18 inches by 3.5 feet. Is it just done? No. Over it there is a beam of 18 inches by 18 inches depth, which is connecting all the 3 columns at one stretch in order to withstand the load and transfer it uniformly to the entire length or width of the site to be more effective in terms of transferring the load from the columns to the foundation. So all the columns in this stretch are designed on the site edge. The column consumption here will be 4 times or 5 times compared to a regular foundation. So how do we understand the consumption of steel and concrete here? If we are spending around 50,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees more for this foundation, so every day the benefit that we reap in terms of using the parking space effectively, we can compare that expense till the house that we use, the place that we use on a regular basis. That will help us to know, should we make this expense or should we spend this additional money, or what is a loss if we don't plan such a design where every day we are in loss of using the space, and whatever we are going to use in terms of parking, always we will face problem or troubles. So when compared to that, it is always a fine or a wise decision in order to shift the columns and spend little more money so that you can reap the benefit out of that investment on a daily basis, but always you will be happy to use the space effectively and you will never crib for loss of space or during parking for whatever we have designed. So you also have to know that there is a way that the columns can be shifted, the design can be altered, so accordingly the foundation can be planned so that we can do it in an effective way, and that will help us in terms of getting the benefit. And now what you can see here is the column here is not 6 inches, it's of a 8 inch, and all the rebars that is used is 16 mm of 8 numbers. So here one thing is the size of the column is changed from 6 inch to 8 inch, plus the rebars that we have used is all total 8 numbers of 16 mm dia. So that's how it changes, friends. Friends, if you like this video and the information of this video, subscribe to our channel, like and share our videos. If you have any questions, post them on the comment section.